Hello, hello, everybody. I'm just looking at our participants here and just looking for people to pile in, which I do see. That's awesome. Welcome, everybody. We are going to get started in a minute. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here, and we've been looking forward to this session. So thanks for spending the next hour with us. I'm Nancy. I'm on the marketing team here at Civic, and Ty is one of our AI engineers. If you're here today because you're feeling like everyone else is already an AI expert and you don't know how to get started, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're all about helping you build practical skills, and we've got four AI workflows today that we're going to be walking you through. And these are workflows that can all be used in your daily work. Through the next hour, we definitely want to hear from you. We can't see your faces, so the best way to let us know that you are here is to just use emojis, jump into the chat, ask questions in our Q&A. There are lots of ways to get our attention, and I will be looking at the chats and the Q&As so that we queue these questions up for Ty to answer for you. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Ty.
Thank you, Nancy, for that wonderful introduction. Like Nancy mentioned, we are going to run a 60-minute workshop. Hopefully it'll be a little bit shorter because we want to stop at around 45 minutes for anyone to ask any questions. We're going to run four tiny experiments that you can use afterwards to kind of go over and learn a little bit more about AI. You can use it in your daily life versus also in work as well. And hopefully you'll find them quite useful and adapt them to your own personal needs. We're really excited to share this with you. So yeah, let's get started. So just about me a little bit. I won't spend too long here. My name is Ty Mark-Avenett. Nancy did a great introduction. I am a developer relations and AI engineer at Civic Technologies. I've really become quite obsessed with this technology. I think it's probably it's a really great invention that's come through in our lifetime, and it really can help us be a little bit more creative in our life and work a little bit faster in work and brainstorm and come up with like a lot of cool and good ideas that we can go forward. So I like to think of myself as a bridge between these AI systems and these users, and hopefully you'll get an idea of like the different things you can do with AI going forward. Yeah, so today it's all about running these tiny little experiments. We're going to kind of go through running conversations versus not prompts. And what I mean by that is that we're going to converse with the LLM, which is the large language model, and we're going to ask it questions and follow our curiosity instead of just taking a big prompt and pasting it in and asking the LLM to do a bunch of work. That way it's having more of a conversation, and we believe a lot in like using the LLM as not someone to just automate your work, but as almost a collaborator, a colleague that you would lean on. It has a collective world intelligence, so leverage that intelligence, and we're going to show you how to do that as well. And at the end, once you've gone through the conversation, we're going to take what we've learned and we're going to capture it and store it so you can reuse this over time. Obviously, you're not going to do this with every conversation, but if you're going through a conversation and there are a few steps that you've hit and you realize you want to redo this over and over again, instead of going through the whole conversational steps, you can save that and just reuse that. So that's where the prompt comes in. So another thing we're also going to cover is the use of apps, which allow you to connect your large language model to sources like your Gmail, your Google Analytics. And what's really great about this is I'm not a massive fan of Google Analytics. I find it can get quite complicated. So I just want to ask the LLM to do the work on my behalf and just ask it questions. So that's a really exciting thing that we're going to go through. And yeah, we hope you're going to find some leverage out of this. So let's just shift from the conversation to prompts. So generally, if you're on LinkedIn or on Twitter, you'll hear a lot of people talking about prompt engineer, context engineering, and you'll see these massive prompts. And yes, they are great and you should iterate on them. But the more value you will find in using these AI systems is just by using and conversing with them and asking them questions, following your curiosity. There is no real recipe. We want to follow up naturally, and we want to let the conversation show you what matters and capture it. This holiday season, I've seen a lot of people actually leverage AI for cooking in the kitchen, for example. And they might say, okay, how long does this thing need to cook for? Or how do I bake these cookies? And like, I'm doing XYZ, I don't have these ingredients. And you're just asking and conversing with it. And that's the whole idea that we want to kind of leverage around here, is that you will have an idea of just thinking about when can I leverage LLM to ask it questions that I don't necessarily know. So the pattern for every experiment is just having a little spark, a short question, 2 or 3 sentences, just following your curiosity, and then following up with 3, 4 follow-up conversation follow-ups. This is where the real value emerges, right? You're just following your curiosity, you're directing the conversation, you're weaving it in and out. And then at the end, if you find a workflow that is really good, that you feel like you've developed, you can find a lot of value from day to day, you can capture that and store it as a prompt. And you ask the large language model to generate that prompt for you. And it's really quite good at generating a prompt for you because it's got all that context and that conversation history that you've been talking through. And then it can take all the most important points and save that so you can reuse it over time. And that's how you can create more a personalized system instead of taking this prompt that's generally quite generic. You can make it a little bit more personal towards yourself. And then you're going to save that to memory, and then you can also make it that it's reusable. But we're going to use an application to do that as well. So without further ado, let's get to the first experiment. And this is an idea spark. So like, for example, my wife came to me and she's had this idea. She said she was shopping at Christmas and she really wanted to be able to buy a pair of sneakers in a style that she likes that is also comfortable. So she went to Google and she entered that, like, this is what I'm looking for. And everyone's competing at the top spot. So nothing was within her style, didn't know anything about what she was actually looking for. Then she went into ChatGPT and did the exact same thing. And also nonsense came out. So she came up with this idea. She was like, okay, what if the large language model could figure out what she needs based on who she follows on Instagram? So she's got a bunch of influencers that she follows because she follows them based on the styles that they like to dress and the way they look. And like, could it leverage that to suggest what she might buy and what she might like? I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty cool idea. Why don't we try that? So the first thing you want to do is when you have an idea is you can leverage what we call an agent researcher. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that with inside of Claude that can then go and see whether this idea is viable. And what I mean by that is we can say, I have an idea for a product, an AI that looks at someone's social media, who they follow, what influencers they engage with, and recommends products that match their actual style. Is anyone building this? And we can leverage this. The large language model is going to act as a research assistant, and it's going to do this work for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this prompt in here. And I'm going to go into Claude and I'm going to start a new chat here. And I'm going to paste it in. So I'm sure if any of you have used Claude, if you use ChatGPT, you might be using Copilot at work. I'm quite a fan of Claude. I like the UI. I like the model. And what I mean by the model is Opus 4.5. It's the latest one. It's really very, very smart. And I love the way it's style and the way it asks questions and talks back to me. So I'm going to keep it on Opus 4.5 here, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to turn on research, and I'm going to press enter. So now what the large language model is going to do is it's going to see, okay, Tyron has this idea that he wants to work out. I need to gather as much context from him to be able to go do this work and come back with a report that's he's going to be satisfied with. So you're going to see that it's going to, oh, it actually didn't ask me questions. Sometimes if it infers that the question is ambiguity in the question, it's going to go in and ask you a series of questions before doing the research. So what it's done now is, and this, if you've heard about agents and haven't really been exposed to them, it's launching what we call research agents, and it's creating a research plan that's going to a bunch of different websites. It's trying to pull the different content. You can imagine doing this on yourself. It would take you hours, if not days, to be able to do something like this. And the quality of the report that comes back is outstanding. I use this in a way for, like, for example, if I've got an idea in the car an idea when I'm driving in the car, and I'll be like, oh, I need to do research on this. Let me just ask the LLM a few questions, and then it'll go and do research for me, goes and spends about 20 minutes doing this research, comes back, and I'm at home. I can open up the report and ask questions on that report. So we're not going to sit here and wait 20 minutes for this thing to finish. I'm actually done this, asked the large language model previously to go and do this research for me. And I'm going to open it up here. And you can see I posted in the exact same question. So I'm not going crazy. And it asked me some follow-up questions. about like what's the product focus? Is it fashion, apparel, broader lifestyle products, home tech, beauty, your angle, platform focus? So it asked me quite a few questions before it actually went and did the research. So it came back with this massive report. We're also not going to read it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just copy this thing here. And I'm going to open up a new chat. I'm going to paste it in here. So what we're doing here is we're taking this report and we're giving it to the large language model again. Claude also has the ability to reference past chats, so it could go and find that report, but I'm just being a little bit more explicit here. What I'm doing is I'm pasting in this report to ask the large language model, this is what I need you to have in your memory, which is the context window, in order for me to ask questions. So I'm going to go back to my presentation, and I have like a series of questions. So you know, previously we didn't paste in a large prompt, we just had an idea. And then I'm going to ask it some questions. I'm going to say, does this idea have potential? Be brutally honest. This is the money question here. And I know what the answer is already because I was quite excited. I thought it was a great idea. But it turns out there's a lot of roadblocks in the way of getting something out there because there's a bunch of companies competing for this. Yes, Nancy.
Ty, we have a question from our audience here. So in that report, there were a lot of sources cited. So where does the AI get its information?
You can actually see that. So you can see in the report here, you can see that it's got all these this is everything it used in order to come up with that report.
So basically comb through nearly 400 resources or sources in order to get that report.
Yeah. And that's why it takes like 20 minutes to do it. It's got to go in and fetch all the information it needs. It needs to synthesize it, summarize it, figure out exactly where what's relevant, what's not relevant. But yeah, I mean, it did this in 20 minutes, and you can imagine that would take you a lot of time to do that. So
yeah, absolutely. 394 sources. That is absolutely incredible when you think about how long it would take a human to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So let's just open that here. Okay, brutally honest incoming time. The research is excellent. Thank you. I did the research. The opportunity is questionable. The document correctly diagnoses the problem, API lockdown, regulatory pressure, and fragmented value chain. So yeah, so it's given us a real good idea of whether or not it's viable and if there are certain avenues that we can take in order to explore it. But the one question I'm actually kind of curious about is whether or not Instagram provides a way for us to be able to retrieve this data through an API, for example. And I'm going to ask the LLM that. I'm going to just say, does Instagram offer the ability for me to pull information from an account that is private through API access? And am I able to get and retrieve influences through that API data? So like now I'm like, I have this idea. I think it has potential, but I need to figure out if it's possible. We've given the LLM a report and see what's possible. And it says, no, private accounts, zero API access, Instagram API cannot retrieve any data from private accounts, period. The user would need to authenticate themselves and grant share permission. And even if they get their data and not their followers. Okay. So I know Instagram has locked down on the API access, so it's not something they want to show. And most of the stuff they're going to do when it comes to shopping is going to be with internal in the app. So I have to go break the news tomorrow. I have to say, sorry, this is unfortunately not going to work out. But I mean, we can go read the report and see and argue with the LLM, okay, is there any sort of angle that you think we could explore? And it'll be honest. And you can argue back and forth with it. So let's go back to the presentation here. We could go through each of these questions. I'm not going to go with them because we've hit a bit of a stumbling block with the idea itself. But I just want to kind of give you an idea. If we go back through here, is those are the sort of questions you can ask, and you can just converse with LLM based on the document and the report to see whether or not it is suitable. And that's really quite powerful. Okay, so generate a prompt that I can use whenever I have a product idea and I want to quickly research the landscape. So leverage this research agent It takes time to go and generate the research. You can verify through the resources it's come up with, and yeah, it's really, really quite good. So run it whenever you have a good idea. Come back later, sit down with a cup of coffee, and then build your research muscle through that. So that was our first experiment, leveraging a research agent inside of Claude. Yeah.
Ty, this is a really good example of if you needed to do some sort of deep research for work, maybe you want to do competitor analysis
Exactly.
and really think about how each of your competitors stack up against your own product. I can really see the LLM being able to pull this research together in record time for you.
Yeah. And then we've actually done that at Civic as well. We look at the different competitors to see what they're doing, how they're doing it. And yeah, just coming up with good information, you know, on how we can move the product forward. So that's probably one of the best examples to leverage it for. Cool. So now we've got this, Nancy sent me this great report. And it is quite vast, right? It's almost 100 pages, and it's called AI Eats the World. And it's quite relevant to what we're doing inside of Civic. So I wanted to go through it. I'm very interested in it, but I don't have the time, right? And I don't know if there are certain aspects that are quite interesting specifically to me, or there are different points that I want to do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to our prompts, and I want to ask, I'm going to run some sentiment analysis. I'm going to ask it to summarize it and take away the most important parts of this document. So your colleague sends you a dense report. You should read this. You know you won't, but if you could get the gist in 60 seconds, how would you do that? We're not going to do exactly 60 seconds, but the whole idea is just to, you know what's important to you. You know what interests you. So instead of skimming through a 100-page document, you can throw it into the large language model and ask it to, this is what I'm interested, this is what I'm looking for. How is the author arguing these points? And a really good way to also do this is like asking the large language model, if the author's points are valid, would you argue for them? Would you argue against it? Why? Why not? So you can have a debate with the large language model as well. So anyway, let's get started again. I just got sent this PDF about AI trends. I've been again Evans, and I'm going to go into Claude again. I'm going to paste this in. It probably is good enough to go and fetch this PDF, but I'm just going to paste it in here so it knows to go fetch it. So this is a good idea, is like there is so much information now, and I for me personally, suffer a lot from information overload. So instead of being able to read everything, I can like collect everything that I'm trying to and want to read, and then I can have a conversation with the large language model about what I should spend more time reading and what I should spend less time reading. And if a lot of you are readers, this is actually a really awesome way to leverage a large language model as well, is just to take a picture of your book, paste it in, and then ask questions on it. Which is basically what we're going to be doing here, is we just given it the resource and it's given us a summary of what it is. I'm just going to say, this is overly verbose. Can you list the most important points, 5 or 6 at most? So it's going to go and get the information. Scaling is not essential. Okay, this is good. And then I can leverage and deep dive into each of these questions. But the one thing that I did mention, and I kind of want to get into it, is this idea of argue for and against the author's points. I really enjoy doing this because large language models tend to be quite objective, and what they will do, or they have done in the past, is not really take a side. They will kind of ask you what you think and then force you to take a side, but you can really push it to take a side in terms of arguing for or against the author's points. So let's just see what it does. It might say that it's going to be objective. You know? Okay, for Evans, the scaling uncertainty is real. We've seen diminishing return before an ML that. Okay, so it's done. And then you can obviously dig deeper in here. You can say, okay, why did you argue against? Where are you pulling that information from? And this is a really good conversation. Instead of just like, reading something and taking it at face value, leverage the large language model's intelligence to determine why it would argue against it and why it would argue for this information. And you can also leverage, obviously, your own insights and what you think about it, then ask the large language model why your assumptions are correct or incorrect. And it's a really good way to have a conversation. So we can even go more questions. Like if I wanted to say, who does he say is about enterprise adoption? Is it working? Let's actually take this last one. If I had said 2 minutes of question, what should I say? So everyone is humbled on time a little bit. So if you want to get the most out of it as quickly as possible, you can run this point. AI is definitely the next platform shift after web and mobile, but everyone's guessing on timelines and winners. The big tension is that a lot of money's going in it. AI gives you infinite interns, great tasks where errors are obvious, dangerous where they're not. I 100% agree with that. I really do agree with that. You've got to, and I think we talk about this internally, is that you have to treat the LLM as an intern, but the people that are going to get the most out of these large language models are the domain experts, because they can spot when the LLM hallucinates. And what we mean by hallucinate is makes up the information. We can easily spot when it makes something wrong. So you want to leverage that. And you also know what questions to ask it. So you're leveraging its intelligence, but you're also guiding it in a way to make sure that it doesn't come up with things that are incorrect. So I really agree with that author's points there. So that is experiment 2. I don't know if there are any other questions after that. Now we're going to get in stuff that's a little bit more, I would say, advanced, but sure. Yes, nice.
Yeah, Ty, we'll take a quick break for some questions here.
Sure.
We've got some basic questions. Why don't we take a step back here? How does a person access the LLM? I think some of us may be very intimidated and assume that it's a very high bar for entry. And I want to clarify that it's truly not. So Ty, why don't you demo here?
A demo like how to access it.
Yeah, why don't you log in and just show
Oh,
how a layperson would get started on a tool
okay.
like Claude or a tool like ChatGPT?
Yeah, so let me go into ChatGPT. So let me just see here. So basically, let me try see if I can log out here. I'll log into question here. And basically, you just come into ChatGPT. This is the desktop app. You can also come into and just go to chatgpt.com. And I'm logged in, but you can log out. Let me figure out how to log out here. I'll log out.
Yeah, but you can even try it right now. Go to chatgpt.com. I think they've even shortened it to chat.com, if I'm not mistaken. And you can start
Ah,
asking your first question.
oh, true. They do. They
Yes.
redirect it. Okay, interesting. That's why I was wondering why a lot of people were referring to ChatGPT as chat of late. So that's interesting. That's really, really cool. Yeah, so once you come in here, you can just click on to log in with Google, or if you have a Google account, can do your personal account. I'll do Civic MCP demo, which is just a demo account. And I will log in here, and then it'll come up with your day, ask you for your birth. I'll give you my age.
You can just lie about it. We all know you're 21.
Uh, okay. And then once you sign up, you are taken in there. And then the first thing here is just whatever interests you. If like you like to cook, or if you like to read, just follow your curiosity. You want to know about an answer to a question. I know a lot of my kids come to me and like, I'll tell them an answer to something. They'll be like, oh, but let's ask ChatGPT about it. And I was like, okay, yeah, sweet. Do you want to check whether or not I'm lying or not? But yeah, it's like become synonymous with questions that people might ask going forward. So yes, that's once you're in here, like just figure out, like if you don't know anything and you're curious about something and you're trying to figure out how to do something, just come into ChatGPT and ask the questions. I've really seen like a big change in my mom, who always used to come to me and ask me how she would like need to do certain things. Like, I don't know, do something on the TV, for example, how to sign into Apple TV, or, there's something wrong here, there's something there. And she just goes and asks questions. And she's yeah, she really is a massive fan and proponent of using this. So to answer your question, go to ChatGPT, log in, and ask it anything. Just let your curiosity wander. It's like literally having access to the world's collective intelligence. Like a lot of people say that, LLMs have PhD level expertise, and it's proven in certain scenarios it does. But also don't take everything at face value. It will lie if you throw a bunch of data in it and you ask it to summarize it. You need to double check whether or not things are correct or wrong. So I would really encourage you to treat it as something that will make mistakes, just like a human, like really just like a human being. You would.
And you can certainly do a lot of research in ChatGPT and in Claude without ever paying for an account. So there is no financial barrier to get started. You can do a lot in there.
Exactly. And I think the plan, you can get a lot out of the $20 plan. And what the $20 plan also gives you access to is something that's called advanced voice mode. And that's really, really awesome is you just put your phone next to your computer and yes, it's listening, but you can ask it questions and speak to it like you would a human being. I've had conversations 30, 40 minutes just talking like I would to a colleague, for example. It's really, really exceptionally well done. And I can't believe we've gotten here that we can talk to a computer and it sounds exactly like a human being. Anyway.
All right, Ty, one more question before
Yeah.
we move on to your third example. What's the difference between the LLMs? Is there a big difference between Claude versus ChatGPT versus Perplexity, for example?
So yes, there are ChatGPT has their models. It's called Chat. It started out with 3.5. That was really one of the strongest models. That was the first version. Then it went to 4.0, and now we're on 5.1. And you will notice there's actually a lot different ways in that my models actually answer. So you might prefer ChatGPT over Claude or Claude over ChatGPT in the way that it responses, breaks down your questions, and replies to you. Some of them even have a personality. There was back in the past, I think ChatGPT got a lot of pushback from people who noticed that it was very sycophantic. So it was always saying that you write, and it praised you a lot. And there was a lot of pushback from that. But yeah, it is preferential. I'm a coder, so I choose the model that is the best at coding. And then, like, for example, Nancy or Becca in our company might choose a model that's very good for writing, for example, or very good at breaking down problems or answering certain questions in a certain way. I would encourage you to explore these models and see which one fits you the best. Google has also released a really good model now. It's called Gemini 3. And I use it for being able to consume information and learn about new information because what it does is it will explain a topic to you and then show you a YouTube video as well. And then you can ask questions on that YouTube video. Like learning is completely changed and you can really learn about advanced topics relatively quite quickly. So to answer your question, there are so many different models. It's if you're using what we call a foundation model, which is ChatGPT 5.1 or Claude Opus 4.5 or Gemini Pro, those are models that are really quite strong and efficient, and they've been trained the longest, and they're probably the most expensive to train. Anyway, use those ones to really gauge the power that these things can bring. But yeah, there's a lot of them, and they're constantly competing with each other, which is one company might release a new model, and then another company releases another new model, and they're constantly competing with each other. Oh yes, there's actually a really good thing that if you want to figure out which model you like the best without being like persuaded by it, there's a very cool website called Chat Arena, I think it's called, LLM Arena, and you can ask a question here, and then it will come back with an answer, and it will come back with two answers, and you don't know which model is which, and you have to vote on which model it is, and then it will tell you which one you use. So you can see that, oh, okay, my preference is actually leaning towards Gemini, or my preference is actually leaning towards ChatGPT. So we can share this link for you. So if you're trying to figure out which model to go or which provider to go with, just ask a few questions inside of here, llmarina.ai, and then select which response you like the best. We can say like, tell me about the best programming language. And you'll see right now it's going to go assistant A, assistant B, and it's going to come up with a response, and you can pick which one you like. And then if you pick which one you like, it's going to tell you the model. So if I don't know if I have to log in to let's say right is better. And then it'll tell you here in the top right what model is. Silent Nova. Don't know what that is. Anyway, but yeah, so you'll get a good idea of which model you like the most. Some of them are actually called these unique names because they actually haven't been released to the public. So what Gemini, Google, and all these model companies will do is they will put their models out here under a specific name to see whether or not it's performing well before they actually release it to the public. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. We're going to
Yeah,
do another Q&A after experiment number 3, but yeah, let's see number 3.
perfect. Cool. So we've done we've just to recap, we've used the research assistant. We've been able to chat with a PDF document. We've done things that not too advanced, but we just want to kind of get you an idea of like how you can leverage these things to move quicker. And what we want to do right now is these large language models, all they need is specific context, right? They need to be able to know about you, for example, to ask very personal questions, or if there's certain things you want to do, you can leverage the large language model to do that. So this is the concept of what we call like applications. And if you go to Nexus here, which is what Civic is doing, but I want to, a lot of these Claude and ChatGPT have the ability for you to plug this in, and which we'll get into that in a little bit. But we call them tools here. They're actually going to be called applications. But here you can see that I can connect a bunch of different services. So for example, you might have Gmail, you might have your Google Analytics, you might have Box.com, you might have some of your work documents connected. How do you get that information from those services into the LLM to ask questions about it? You don't just want to go to your emails, put the search function, copy those emails and paste them and ask questions about it. You can ask questions directly by connecting these various tools to do that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually ask the large language model about information about Google Analytics. So like what I mentioned in the beginning is I'm not a big fan of Google Analytics. I don't like the interface. It's changing a lot. And I'm not an expert at all means by doing that. But it's very important for us at the company and everyone in the company to have access to this data because that helps us make these decisions, right? So you don't have like your specific Google Analytics or your data engineer, for example. Anyone can ask questions in natural language about these applications that they use. So if we go back here, I'm just going to ask this question here, large language model, right? And it's going to infer that it knows that it has installed Google Analytics. So it's going to go fetch that information. I just want to kind of say, I'm demoing this to an audience, a web and a webinar. Don't really reveal any information that is too private. Just give us a summary and a few points. This site has been deprecated, so it's fine, just to give you a little bit additional context. So it's not going to find data up to 2025 because this site has been deprecated. But you can see right now it's going to go and fetch that data for me. I didn't have to do anything. I literally just connected Google Analytics to the large language model, and the large language model now can go pull that information and it can start giving me data about it. And I can ask questions just like we did in the PDF, just like we did in the research example with the report. We can ask questions about our data. And this is super powerful because you don't have to go learn this massive tool. You don't have to spend your time learning about it. You can just ask questions like you would if you had someone sitting right next to you. And it's going to go find it. It realized that obviously it has been deprecated, so it's going to go a bit back. Go back. I should tell it that the data is only from 2024. But this is really good for you to see. It's because I'm not prompting the LLM to go and giving it dates and telling it what to do. This is a very good example of the LLM going and finding this information based on its own intuition. So I want to tell it, actually, can you go back to 2024 and 2023, early in that period, in order to find some data for us that we can show? I'm basically trying to look at the difference between desktop and mobile traffic. Can you tell me anything around that? And you'll notice that I'm just talking to my computer. It's just a simple application that I have, so you don't have to watch me typing. But it also helps you like move a lot quicker, even though it does make spelling mistakes sometimes.
Yeah, so normally we would be in Google Analytics, picking out the exact date range that you want and really specifying the parameters in there. Whereas here, you are just connecting your Google Analytics account to Nexus and you are asking these questions in very plain English and relying on the LLM to pull and also analyze that data for you.
Exactly. So it is quite verbose in the information that it does give us. I'm just going to say, can you just tell me roughly in percentage points, did we have more traffic from mobile versus desktop? So you can see how you can use or leverage this information inside of your own company in order to come up with like insights without having to go into Google Analytics and ask and figure it out. And this is just one example. There was a really cool example for 3D artists. I can't remember what the exact application is, but it's really difficult to figure out how to use this application. And instead, they gave the LLM the ability to communicate with this application. So you could just say, okay, make this character, make this specific 3D element or do this element without having to go learn the tool. And that's the whole idea about this is you're taking this information, these tools, you're connecting to the large language model, and it's doing the work on your behalf. And that's really, really quite powerful. So yeah, so that's just being able to like, I want to get an idea about what some information around Google Analytics. I don't want to dig through the tool. I don't want to go and ask someone else about that information. And you can imagine if you connect a lot of this information to a lot of these different tools together, you can ask it and find patterns across all these different tools that you use. And that's where the real power comes in, because the more information you give this large language model, the more it can answer and come back with the more it can use that information to find patterns where you might not see it. So that is that other experiment there. It's just connecting one application to your large language model in order to pull your analytics, so you don't have to go dig through the application in order to find those different information. So
Another
some,
tool.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Ty. Please go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say that these are sort of the questions you can ask. Is that up or down from last month? Should I be worried about anything? What's the most surprising thing in here? If I could focus on one thing, what would it be? So those are the kind of questions you're leveraging it to be the expert and asking it information and patterns, because it's really good at being able to find patterns where you might not be able to see.
Thanks, Ty. I was gonna say you demoed how, you connected your Google Analytics to Nexus. I think Gmail is another great use case as well. You could also connect your Gmail and maybe ask questions like, hey, I have a meeting coming up with this person. Read my entire email thread with this person and see if there are any action items, or maybe there are some key takeaways. So yeah, there's just a lot of functionality that you can tap into.
Exactly. That's funny you mentioned that, because that's actually going to be the next experiment.
Perfect.
Um,
Oh, you know
yeah,
what? Why don't we do a quick break for another Q&A? Give me
sure.
1 second. Let me capture the question here. We have a question from Jesse. Thanks for your patience here, Jesse. What are the top AI skills to learn in 2026? And this is entirely in your opinion.
That's a good question. I would just, to be 100% honest, just using these tools. Like a really good mindset is to have is how can AI help me, right? And the more you use these tools, you'll realize, okay, it gets very good at summarizing documents. It's very good at being able to pull information from different tools and synthesize that. It's very good at like being able to tell me how to make something in the kitchen, for example. So you just want to kind of have that mindset of how can AI help me? And if you're doing something at work, I mean, people are doing like, it's mostly quite intricate. You're not going to get the AI to do most of to automate your work 100%, right? Like there's tasks that are quite tedious to do that you want LLM to leverage to be able to do that. So, a good way is to like maybe document what you do on a day-to-day basis that you don't enjoy, and taking that documentation and throwing it into the large language model and saying, okay, I really don't enjoy doing this. I don't really enjoy working with this. I want to kind of optimize it. How can you help me? How can I be a bit more efficient at this task that I'm not really enjoying? Um, And it can be anything. Like I'm learning to skateboard right now, and it can give me updates on like what to do and how to learn and like things going forward on how to do that. Um, but the skill is generally just to be curious. You've got like literally, I've mentioned this a lot of time, you've got the world's collective intelligence at your fingertips. Anything you want to learn, anything you want to explore, any question you want to ask, you can do it right in here, and you can do it in relatively no as quickly as possible. So to answer your question, the skill is learn how to have an intuition for these large language models. Learn what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And the only way you're going to learn those skills is by using it, and try use it every day to answer questions that you might have that just pop up into your mind. And if I could just say and leave in one last thing is spend the $20, pay for ChatGPT so you can get advanced voice mode and literally just put it on your table and have a conversation with it. And you're going to start developing an intuition of how it can help you. And any question you might have, ask it. Just ask it. Just be curious. Ask it the whole time. Like that question you just asked me, ask the large language model, and it'll probably give you a better answer than I did. Yeah. Is that the last question? Right. Yeah.
Sorry. One more question before you go on to your last experiment here. Roberto had a question. What's the name of the two AI models that came out of the LM Arena site that you just demoed for us earlier? Let's just flip there really quickly and see.
Okay. Gemini 2.5 Flash and Silent Nova. I don't know what Silent Nova is. So like I mentioned, some of these models are still in like private data. They go behind like uh, a unique name, like a name that's not well known yet. And then people can speculate, oh, this model actually might be the new model that's coming out of OpenAI, or it might be the new model that's coming out of Anthropic. So I don't know. Silent Nova might be actually a legitimate model. I don't know. But these are the two that came out. Then you can come to the leaderboard and you can see which ones are actually trending. You see Gemini is trending right there. Opus is trending in for yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm a massive fan of Anthropic. Hey, GPT 5.2. I didn't realize they were releasing 5.2. That's interesting. And you see Grok is also a good one. I don't use it much, but it's worth exploring. So these are all the models that people are finding the most intuitive and the most useful. And then obviously for vision, because you can upload pictures and it can extract data and ask you questions on the text that you're trying to do, like PDFs you might want to load, ask you questions on an actual image you've taken. So they're saying that Gemini is very good at doing that. Text to image. Text to image is basically like describing a prompt and then asking it to generate an image from that. And Google's got something that's called Nano Banana Pro. So if you are creative, I would suggest you really look into that. Yeah, so this is just really gives you a good overview of like where are the most popular models and how people are using them.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. We will continue on with our programming. We would love to see your experiment number 4.
Perfect. We'll do that. Uh, yeah. So experiment number 4 is exactly what Nancy mentioned. You've got a call in 20 minutes and you want to get a summary. You want to find out the most important parts about the call that you're about to have. You've exchanged emails with a person. In this case, it's called Sarah Chen. And we've got this prompt here that says, okay, I have a call with Sarah Chen in 20 minutes. Scan my recent emails with her and catch me up. So we're going to go back to Nexus. We'll start a new chat. Actually, I think I do have a previous chat with it. So unless someone went in and delete those emails. Wow.
What I can tell is that no matter what, the LLM is very keen on helping you deliver the answers. You know, it's trying one way and it's not getting what you want. It's trying another way and then a third way. It's not just, oh, we didn't find an exact match and we're going to stop. It's not like that. It keeps iterating in order to try to help you out.
And that's exactly it. It's very agentic. That's what you call like basically an agent, right? You give it a set of tools and then it can go and try find that information, try different sequences. Like you could imagine coding this, it would be very difficult to do that. The large language was basically using its intuition. You see, so it found these emails now. The first search, it didn't find anything. It tried a different query, different search phrase, and then it actually found those emails. And now it's going to retrieve those emails and it's going to come up with a summary for me. So yeah, that's perfectly spot on there, Nancy. Like it's it's really like a human being would do it. Like it's crazy to think it like that. So here's Sarah Chen, blah blah blah, and then we can just quickly ask it. I know we're running a little bit low on time. What's the last thing we agreed on? I'm just going to copy all these questions and then ask it to generate me a response. And then what we're going to do here is assume that we've had this conversation and we don't want to go through this every single time. I'm going to ask the large language model to save this as a prompt that we can then reuse going forward. So any email that you might have and you're running late, you can get it to rerun that exact same prompt without you asking those same questions. Cool. So now I'm going to say, can you save this as a prompt to my Google Docs?
Ty, while we're waiting for this, let's answer a question. Is Civic Nexus similar to ChatGPT?
It is. It's exactly like so it uses a different model, so it's model agnostic, but the model that we're currently using right now is Claude, which is Anthropic's model, which is I believe we're using, I can't remember if we're using Opus or Sonnet. So if we go to Claude here, you can check. I can't remember if we're using Sonnet or Opus 4.5, but it's basically like Claude, but just here. But what I also want to show you is if you're using a tool like ChatGPT or Claude, you can come in here and install it inside of Claude, for example. And then we've got the instructions of how you can add it there. And that gives you access to all those tools as well. So if I turn on Nexus here, you can see it's got access to Google Docs. This is all the different functionality that we provide, that the LLM has. So like it can list Gmail threads. You don't have to worry about that. Once you give it access to your Gmail, you give it access to your calendar. This is all the functionality that the LLM can use in order to do certain tasks, like retrieve documents, save documents, edit documents, search your emails, draft your emails, and then you can turn them off if you don't want the LLM to actually execute any of those. But you don't have to worry about that. You just have to install it, and then you can say. So like now I can say, what apps do you have access to? I think that like Claude calls them connectors. So I'm just going to say apps or connectors. And then it'll give me a summary, right? Because I turned it on. So you don't have to specifically use Nexus. You can use Claude as well if you feel more comfortable doing that. So you see it's got access to my Google Workspace, HubSpot Web. And then I can do exactly what I was doing inside of Nexus, inside of Claude, like search the emails for Sarah Chen, retrieve files from Google Drive, so you can retrieve PDFs, save stuff to Google Docs, connect your HubSpots, and all the different, like all these different applications that you can add to your large language model. Notion, SharePoint.
So Ty, in your Claude account right now, given that you've connected to your Gmail, you've connected to your HubSpot and things like that, it means that you can query those tools exactly the way that you just did here in Nexus, right? You can ask
Exactly.
HubSpot for, I don't know, the campaign performance of your latest email or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's spot on. And that's the power of it, right? You don't have to copy and paste from these different applications. You don't have to, you can just ask the LLM, please go search specific emails under this criteria. And it's clever enough to try different sequences in order on how to do that.
Got it.
Yeah. What's really nice is if you connect Google Analytics to Claude, you can get it to really draw great graphs. It can write web applications for you right in the side here. We didn't really cover that, but that's what Claude calls artifacts. And it'll generate like small working apps, like with a graph that shows what data is in there or how this is doing or how that's doing. So you can visualize it and interact with it instead of just reading text.
Yeah, I can see how that'd be super useful if you needed to do a weekly summary for executives or for your team.
Exactly. So let's just quickly wrap this up. I didn't save it to Google Docs, but you can imagine me taking that prompt, saving it to Google Docs, and then reusing it over and over again. The same way, if you connect any of your tools or any documents you want to synthesize or talk about in Claude, you don't have to copy and paste it. You can just talk to it directly. So that was the prompt there. So The real insights is you just want to validate your ideas, you want to extract key insights, you want to monitor performance, you want to prepare for meetings. You can do all of this with the leverage of the large language model without having to copy paste between these different applications. The more tools you connect, the more information the large language model has, and the more patterns it can find between all these different pieces of data. So your AI journey now is like, I can't remember who asked the question, what her name was, but basically is just start a conversation, forget rigid prompts, start with a simple question and let curiosity guide you with dialogue. Experiment fiercely. That's why we call them these experiments, because every day you can run a small little experiment to see how you can optimize something in your life or at work, at home, personal, whatever. And then capture and customize it, like log what you learned, how you improved, or where did the large language model go wrong. You can log and save those different insights so that large language model doesn't make those mistakes in the future. And then the best thing is just to take action by doing it. Like I mentioned, spend $20, buy a ChatGPT Pro plan, and just put it down on advanced voice mode and just have a conversation like you would anyone, except that this person has intelligence in multiple different domains. So we want to thank you. Your AI journey is just beginning. We're very excited to see the impact that you guys will make. Don't know if there are any other questions, Nancy. What are we?
I put in a last call for questions here. I'll just wait if people have any. Thanks for the heart emoji. We see that. And then finally, let me wrap up. We're going to be following up via email with materials. So we'll send you the deck so that you can see the prompts from today's webinar. We're also going to be uploading this on YouTube, so we'll send that link as well. We may just edit the piece where we couldn't get Sarah Chen's email working, and it'll be like it never happened. It worked flawlessly the entire time. But thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Wait, I think people left. No, people are still here, actually. One last question for you, Ty. What's the name of the program you use for Creator? Roberto, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Can you clarify? Or you know what? I'm going to, we'll find your, oh yeah, go ahead, Ty.
I think it might be a Nano Banana for if you're trying to generate images. It's a really good tool. Like if you're creative and you're trying to generate images, that's good. There's also Midjourney if people want to use that as well. It's also very good.
Okay. We don't know if Ms. Red is still in this chat here. I'm sorry, we couldn't answer this just because I couldn't understand the question. My apologies. But you will be hearing from us. So feel free to just follow up with via email if you need to get clarification on that question. We'll do our best to answer everything. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.